What's going on, everybody? This is MaxTheCatfish, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to build circles in Satisfactory without mods. Now, you may have seen Monkey Farm or Total Eclipse's videos from last year explaining the process, but there is now a new method that allows you to build circles flush with your existing foundations, which allows you to build some really cool stuff like rounded corners for your factories, maybe like a semicircle end cap for a factory to kind of mix it up from those 90-degree angles that you often have, and a whole lot more. This is a really quick tutorial that's going to teach you how to make circles, and toward the end I'm going to have tips and tricks for building these, so stay tuned for that. Let's jump right into it. First off, to build circles in Satisfactory flush with your existing foundations, you are going to need 3 ingredients. You'll need a power shard, which you learn how to make at the MAM. You're going to have to bring a power slug to the MAM and do some research on it. And this allows you to turn all the power slugs you find in the world into power shards. And these are normally used to overclock your buildings. We're going to use them here as a way of pivoting a foundation to create our circles. You'll need a steel beam, which means you'll at least need to have unlocked the Tier 3 basic steel production in the hub. And you'll need concrete, and a lot of it. There are 4 different sizes of circle that you can build in the game where the walls on the outside of the circle don't have any gaps in them. These are a 5x5 all the way up to an 11x11 foundation circle. It's really important that you have enough concrete before starting to build your circle. If you run out of concrete before finishing the circle, you're going to have a big issue. You won't be able to complete it. So keep that in mind. I have the concrete numbers on the screen here for you to reference based on the size of circle you want to build. All right, with your ingredients in hand, it's time to build out your circle. First, you need to build out a foundation out to where the center of your circle is going to be. And if it's important for this circle to be flush with your existing foundations, make sure that whatever foundation you build out to this circle is at the right level. Once you've built out to wherever the center of your circle is going to be, you want to place your power shard and your steel beam as centered as possible on that foundation. The more centrally located the power shard and the steel beam are, the more centered your circle is going to be on your existing foundations. Why we're doing this is because we are going to use the steel beam as a solid object that doesn't cause foundations to snap to it, and we're going to be rotating this foundation on top of the steel beam in order to form our circle. The former method was to use a spool of copper wire, but when you use copper wire, the foundation isn't flush with your existing foundations. When you place a 1-meter foundation on top of a power shard and a steel beam, that foundation is almost exactly 2 meters higher than when you started, which means you can lower your foundation base down to the original foundation that you started with, and your circle is going to be flush with that foundation. Now that you've placed your central power shard and steel beam, jump up on the steel beam and delete the foundation below you and any foundations in the area. Next, ready an 8x1 foundation, aim straight down, jump, and place the foundation onto the steel beam. After doing this, do not touch WASD, do not move your character. If you move, your circle is going to end up being a little bit of a wonky shape and it won't finish completely. So at this point, once you've placed your first foundation down, you are not allowed to move your character. This is why having concrete in your inventory is so important. Using 8x1 foundations, extend the foundations outward from the center foundation, either 2, 3, 4, or 5 foundations outward, depending on how wide you want your circle to be. Now, without touching WASD, you want to delete the 5 foundations in the center of the cross you've just made. Then ready a new 8x1 foundation, and this time rotate the foundation 10 degrees by scrolling your scroll wheel 1 click. Aim straight down again, jump, and place the new foundation on the steel beam and extend the foundations in the 4 directions just like before. You're going to repeat this until you finish the circle. You'll be rotating the foundation below you 10 degrees, placing the cross out in the 4 different directions, and then deleting the 5 foundations below you and moving on to the next foundation. You're going to need to be careful when placing the last few foundations. They can often snap accidentally to the existing foundations you've placed. During your last cross, once you've placed the 5 foundations in the middle of your circle, you can technically move freely to place the remaining foundations outward if that helps you with their placement. And there it is, your circle's created, but here are a few tips and tricks from somebody who has made circles a bunch of times. I have some suggestions for you when it comes to creating these. You can always grow or shrink a circle foundation to any size as long as you have a full ring of foundations intact. That said, sometimes placing the final outer foundations is especially difficult due to how they snap to one another. I had a really big issue when I made my 11 by 11 circle because of the way that the foundations were snapping to each other oddly. I couldn't place the last foundation in the circle. If an area is giving you particular trouble, you can try building from the inside out, like I show here. It's a lot easier to snap a foundation to the inside of a circle than it is to the outside of one. So I built from the inside of the circle and up, over to the outside, and then down from the outside of the circle, and this made it easy to finish off the last piece of the circle there. The circle platform now is 2 meters higher than your original foundation, so if you want it to be flush with your existing foundations that you use to build out to the center of your circle, you should build 1 meter foundations underneath the circle to lower it to the proper height. You'll notice that there is some graphical overlapping that's happening with your circles, right? It's a little bit distracting when you look at them from far away because of how crazy they look. They look like some kind of weird disco ball. But you can fill in the inside of the 5x5, 7x7, and 9x9 circles by deconstructing all of the inner rings and replacing them with a normally placed foundation. This helps get rid of that graphical glitching that you see, at least for the most part. You'll notice that glitching is actually very minimal when you're on the same level of the foundation, but when you're hovering over it, it looks a little bit odd. 11 by 11 circles can also be filled in, but you need to keep the outer 2 rings. Otherwise, you're going to have holes in your floor, or you're going to have foundations sticking outside of your circle that look really ugly. So keep the outer 2 rings intact and then fill in the inside. You can vastly speed up the creation of circles using the jetpack, or if you're somebody who uses a fly mod to save yourself time, you can use that as well. There are fly mods in the area actions and the pack utility mods that you can download for your game. A jetpack saved me about a minute's worth of time creating the 11 by 11 circle, but using the fly mod in pack utility, I was able to make an 11 by 11 circle in under 4 minutes. It saved me almost 2.5 minutes making the circle. So it's a lot easier to use a fly mod for this kind of stuff if you can bring yourself to do that. Now, this technique doesn't limit you only to creating circles, but like I mentioned, you can do half circles and quarter circles as well, or frankly, any arc that you'd like to mix up your factories a little bit. You can create half circles as the end cap to a base, or quarter circles instead of those sharp 90-degree corners. Here in this example, I created a corner of a base that was going to be kind of this arc of windows. And then on the top of this, I created a little balcony that overlooked this, almost like the forum entry to a neat kind of skyscraper building, something along these lines. You can get really creative with it. Don't let the circle just be something that you build like a silo. You can turn it into a whole bunch of different stuff. Lastly, there's a mod that I really recommend you consider. I know that some of you are pretty opposed to using any mods whatsoever, but I think the Area Actions mod is particularly suited for creating circles and helping you place them. Even with the tips that I taught here, sometimes placing circles end up a little bit off. And it's not your fault, it's just an imperfect science. But the Area Actions mod can help you place and move circle sections if they're just a tad bit off. And this is really helpful for those of you that have a little bit of, OCD, you want things to be designed in a really specific way. I used the Area Actions mod to copy and paste a portion of my circle off when I noticed that the walls on one side weren't lining up. And you can use this tool to make minute changes to the corners and the circles that you've created in the game. I'll be making an entire video about Area Actions and how to use it, so be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified when that video launches. That's my guide for creating circles and my tips and tricks. I'm curious how you're going to be using these in your base, or if you've done so already, how are you using those rounded corners and circles in Satisfactory? Let me know down in the comments. If you like this, don't forget to drop it a like, hit the subscribe button for more content coming out from me in the near future for Satisfactory and other games that we've been playing on Twitch. Come join us live 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting at 2 p.m. Central European Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, where we play Satisfactory live on stream. Otherwise, I will see you all on our next video or on our Twitch stream. See you soon.